here at Charles's office. Charles Adams is a great friend of mine, a wonderful friend of the Catholic world, of our church diocese, a man of many qualities, including integrity, faith, and commitment to everything that we know has value into this society. Would like to welcome you, Charles, and thank you for welcoming me into your own workplace. And I have a few questions for you, questions that are based on your answers. I would like to share them with people watching us this way that, why not, learning from you, learning from your example, from your experience, being encouraged, or even confirming what other people are doing, that we're doing the right thing. So it's great to be here.
Well, thank you for that kind introduction. I don't think you were telling the truth, but and I hope that I don't get thrown out of the Catholic Church for my responses.
We hope so. You know, since we were born and dealing with our parents and our church reality teachings, we always heard and dealt with the notion of God. And throughout our years in life, we've got to love God's presence in our lives in so many ways. I have a question for you. Who is God in your life? Which way you relate to God, especially now?
Well, I think over time that relationship has changed. When I was very young, it was almost like a Santa Claus kind of thing, that God was spoken about, but you didn't see him, and it was someone who was always there to watch over you. As I got older, and especially now, it's a presence that I see all the time in almost everything I do. Sometimes it's looking at what other people do, and I can see God in them. I can see the Creator. I can see the Father there in what other people do. Other times it's when I'm doing things I shouldn't be doing, and I realize God's here with me, that I should be doing something else. But God to me is ever present, and always watching over. Not always judging like when I was younger. I always felt God was judging me. Now I feel more like God is watching over me and is there for me. And every time I fall, there to help pick me up.
Very nice. And obviously God is there to watch over you, sustaining you, helping you, protecting you, guiding you. Is he also there to say, oh, this choice was not the best choice in your life, perhaps? Do you feel that way?
Well, I feel like that God is, but I also feel like there are saints, guardian angel, that I pray to, and I look towards for inspiration. That they're also there telling me, being inspirations for me, telling me what not to do, what to do. Not just God.
And just for those who may not know, saints are those who, just ahead of us, they've got to know God, they got to serve him and to love him. But now by their example, now they're teaching us how to do the same, right?
Absolutely. And one of the things that I always say, and I picked this up from television, is every day be a saint. What else is there?
That's right.
That we should all try to be saints, and heaven is only full of saints. If you're not a saint, you're not in heaven.
Beautifully said, yes, absolutely. This morning, when you started your day, do you have a habit? Did you connect with God? Do you pray? Do you like to pray? Do you ask for his presence?
Every morning when I get up, the first thing I do, there's a prayer card next to my bed, and I get up and I say that prayer. And it's basically thanking God for making me Christian, for watching me overnight, for being with me, for guiding me, and asking God to be with me through the whole day. And then I have prayers that I say every day. Prayer to the Sacred Heart of Jesus, prayer to the Holy Spirit, and then sometimes novenas, depending on what it is. And I go through the Gospel and the readings for the day.
Boy, you're maintaining a schedule almost like a priest would have it.
Well, I can't have you do anything that I can't do.
That's good, that's good. Having that prayer card near your bed reminds me what an advice would be from our grandparents, especially grandmas. They will be the one teaching us, first thing in the morning when you wake up is just to connect with God and ask him to continue to be with you and to hold you by hand. who was the most important person in teaching you the matters of God into your life?
But without a doubt, my father.
Oh, your father.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
My father received, well, up until recently, received communion every single day, went to mass every single day, prays the rosary every single day. It's hard to see him in a relaxed moment, not with a prayer book or reading prayers or saying prayers.
Wow, that's amazing. I wonder now, we just celebrated Father's Day. To use knowing your father this way, it means a lot. It means that, indeed he was there not only to provide in terms of material livelihood, but also faith was what you're sharing with us. Very important, the great respect and love that you have for your father.
Yeah, absolutely. He's tried to instill that in all his children. My father worked very hard all his life. But one thing we always did as a family is on Sunday we went to Mass from the time I was little.
How big is your family? If you don't.
There were seven kids in the family.
So your father was really a good father, taking all of the 7 of you and guiding you.
And I can remember I'm the oldest. I can remember with my youngest siblings being in Mass while they're holding the babies in their arms while we're at Mass.
Wow, very nice. I wonder if many of our followers now will have similar examples to share with us. In my life, certainly was my grandparents. My grandmother. Then obviously my mother had an influence in teaching me the basics of faith. My father kept always too busy for that, but certainly now, lately in life, my father stood up and kind of reminded us about the beauty of being connected with God constantly. So something to say about our fathers here, certainly. You are a father yourself. Do you continue that kind of example towards your kids?
Yeah, I'm not as good as an example as my father was with my kids. I went away from the church for a while. I wasn't as devout.
Where did you go? What happened?
I went to bars.
Okay.
I did a lot of the things that a lot of people do when they get to college and things like that. And it took a while to come back. And certainly my son went through Catholic school, grammar school, and high school, then a few years in a Catholic college, and they switched over to a secular college. But my nieces and nephews, my son, they don't have the same kind of schedule, if I can use that term, that we had growing up. And the same with my brothers and sisters, they don't all do the same thing. Not that they're not religious, but they don't do the same things we did as when we were younger.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. It's such a blessing to be able to say that I have the gift of faith, the love, the fear of God instilled in me from my family, and I continue to pass on the same values to my kids. I wish they will do better in this way, but I am hopeful. When you cannot really insist too much with your kids, or perhaps family members like nephews, and do you continue to pray? Are you still hopeful that they eventually one day they will get it right?
Oh, every single day there are prayers that I say for not only my son but my nieces and nephews and people in my family, because even if you have that faith, even if you have that devotion, if you don't keep praying for it, you're going to lose it. And there's a prayer I say to Saint Anthony, where one of the things I ask in that prayer I ask Saint Anthony is to have me keep the gift of faith, the gift that I cherish most. And I think if you don't do that, if you don't ask God, you don't ask people to pray for you, that you maintain your faith and your love and devotion to God, I think you'll lose it.
Speaking with you now, it reminds me about the beautiful letter that St. Louis XIV wrote to his son, telling him basically that, yes, you can have everything you want in life.
I don't want to interrupt you, but today a kid wouldn't read that letter. It was too long.
Yes, it was a long one, but powerful, wasn't
Yes,
it? From
it
the
was.
first time when I read it, I was so inspired. And you can have everything you want, money, education, success, fame, but if you don't have God, you really are nobody. And trying to direct all the energy, the attention, the focus upon really what is the most important part of our lives is the presence of God. So as a parent, I think it's so important to be reminded about that, and so to be hopeful that eventually kids and grandkids will continue on those values. Yeah.
I think that's why when you see certain saints who at a very young age had a very strong faith and love for Jesus and love for God, like Saint Maria Goretti.
Yes,
right?
totally. Yeah.
Her feast day is coming up, and she had that. Most of us, or most people I know, they get that later on in life. You know, as whatever they did during their life is starting to wane, all of a sudden, the more important things in life are very much in front of them: family, God, prayer. When you're younger, especially I think in this country, and you've heard me say this a million times, you're probably sick of hearing it, but secularism is a religion, and it's forced down our throats by the media, by movies, by television. We don't even realize it's happening, but it changes your views, it changes your morals. And then at a certain point, if you're lucky enough, and if you pray hard enough, you'll see what those things are that you shouldn't be following. So those young saints are really incredible that they have that.
Beautiful examples in our saints. Yes, every single day in our calendars we have been mentioned one saint, and it's so inspiring to read their biography, to see how they did it, what they did, and taking some of those stories, some of those examples, and to say, I can do this, because it's not impossible. They did it back then in 1600, 1800, perhaps 1900s. Why can't I do it today when it's so much more easier, right, to accomplish things? So definitely so. But do we live in a more tempted world today than they did it back then?
My inclination is to say yes, because we're living here now and we know what it's like, but we don't know really what it was like years ago for somebody else. Like when you look at certain saints, especially around the time of Jesus, we don't really know what it was like for them growing up in that era. But today, I think vices are a lot more readily available. You don't have to go out and find them. I think years ago you could go out and find them, but you had to go and look for them. I don't think you can now. You just turn your TV, it's there. Look on your cell phone, it's there. You leave your house, and it's there in front of you.
Totally, yes. One more question I would like to see if you could share with us. If anybody is watching you now and says, I'm a Catholic myself, I do go to church once in a while, I have great kids, they got good jobs and their own families, but there is something missing. How is it possible today to live a fulfilled life as a parent, as a Catholic, as a person involved in society, and know that you're doing every moment the will of God?
Ask God every day. One of the things I do every morning before I leave is I have a crucifix, and I say, Jesus, please be with me and guide me today. Help me to hear your word, to do your will. And I walk out the door. And to me, if you don't ask, you're not going to get what you want. I mean, we're told, asking shall receive, knocking shall be open to you, and I believe that's true.
And how is Jesus answering you?
Every day, sitting here with you, he's answered me. When I walk into the office and somebody needs help or I need help, he's answering me. To see somebody who's in distress and identify the fact that they're in distress, and I'm able to help them. It's not believing that something was a coincidence, because I don't believe there are any coincidences. And then once you start opening your eyes and listening and hearing, and if you can hear God, you can hear God inside of you, you can hear Jesus talking to you inside of you, then that's how those prayers are fulfilled.
Wonderful, thank you. Friends, we just, this is our first attempt to create something new. We were just asking before, what shall we name this? Perhaps it could be appetizer, we said, or for your soul, or something like this. But more than that, it's about sharing, about life, about faith, about what we believe, friendships. I think it's important for us to share online, to find a place where we can express who we really are and how important the presence of God is in our lives. Charles, thank you so much for being the first, agreeing into this, and putting the courage into my heart to start expanding this type of service to our people in such way that we can all find encouragement to this spiritual journey.
Well, it was my pleasure, and hope this isn't the last one.
No, we look forward to the next one as well. God bless.